warm welcome to you. We thank you so much for making the time to be with us this evening. Right, it is Sunday night, so you know it's checkpoint. So let me just tell you what's coming up. Of course, the big story that we're all following since Friday's historic vote within the Senate. We'll be talking about the ouster of Martin Wambora as Embu governor. Are the senators on a vendetta mission, or are they just playing their proper oversight role? We'll have Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, John Mbadi, and Johnson Sakaja as well joining us to have that discussion. Is devolution under threat? Remember, if you want to participate in our conversation tonight on Twitter, please use the hashtag checkpoint, and then we will be sharing your views as well. You can also send us a text. The number is 22155. And let's, of course, start off with that big story tonight. The impeachment of Martin Wambora as Embu governor has revived a supremacy battle between governors and senators. There is no let-up on governors, as the Senate Committee on Finance summons 9 governors over allegations of abuse of office. And the governors have vowed to go to court tomorrow to seek interpretation of the law on the grounds and standards of impeaching a governor. Tonight, Ben Kitili begins our coverage with that.
I put the question on the motion.
When the Senate ratified the impeachment of Martin Wambora as Embu governor Friday, the upper house effectively stamped its authority on governors, setting the stage for another battle between senators and the county chiefs. Wambora made history as the first governor to be impeached after less than a year in office, and our governors fear that it may have been the beginning of an unwarranted onslaught against them.
As Kenyans, we need to ask ourselves whether somebody can really be removed in less than a year for their service, unless there is really what you call gross misconduct.
As the senators made their contributions on the floor of the House Friday, some of them were already licking their lips about who to take down next.
And I so kindly wish to ask you to have copies given to members of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, so that they can start preparing themselves.
Machakos Senator Johnston Mudhama has made no secret of his efforts to put Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua on a short leash. However, Mutua has brushed off Mudhama's offensive.
There are some senators, for example, my Senator Johnston Mudhama, who has rightly told me that we should use the money I get first for party politics, and also we should negotiate a way of cutting deals with the money we have for tenders and other people, so that some people can make some money, and I have refused.
There has been unclear understanding of the threshold that is needed to impeach a governor, and now the governors are set to go to court Monday to seek interpretation on the same. But even as they do that, the Senate is relentless. The Senate Committee on Finance has summoned 9 governors to appear before it next week of allegations of abuse of office. It is not clear whether the said governors, led by Chairman of the Governors Council, Isaac Ruto, will appear before the Senate Committee.
If my being there will be a blessing to them to understand how counties work and operate, then so be it.
Senators, on the other hand, have denied accusations of being heavy-handed and targeting governors unfairly, insisting that they are simply doing their work.
Even if you are my governor and you have misused the funds, I'll be the first one to vote against you.
Our primary duty, as envisaged and written in the Constitution, is that we are protectors of the counties, us as senators.
Meanwhile, as the battle between the governors and senators rages on, an accusing finger has been pointed at members of county assemblies.
The senators sat, they didn't initiate the process, it was brought to them. So we need to find out, was there any politics or what really occurred?
As the alarmed governors head to the courts and senators seek to stand their ground.
What they are trying to insinuate is that the governor is the chief accounting officer, which is not in the Constitution.
Supremacy battle as a statement will not be a political bogeyman for you to hide behind. Najificha hapo unasema you scare us at it's supremacy battle.
Kenyans will be hoping that devolution will not be the ultimate victim. Impeaching a governor in Commonwealth countries with devolved systems of government like Kenya is a grey area. And what makes it even blurrier is determining what exactly constitutes grounds for impeachment, making it difficult to strike a balance between keeping the county government in check and malicious witch hunts to settle political scores. Is the Kenyan Senate setting a dangerous precedent or simply performing its constitutional mandate. Ben Kitili, KTN, Machakos.
Well, so what's next for the Embu County government? Does Dorothy Nditi take office immediately? And if so, who will become the new Embu deputy governor? As Asha Mwilu now reports, the constitution will yet again have the final word.
The first casualty of devolution was the topic of public debate this weekend. But only days after embattled Embu Governor Martin Wambora was forced out of office, the fate of his county appears even more hazy. The constitution is clear on the course of action after the removal of a governor from office. Article 182.2 is crystal clear that the deputy governor shall assume office as governor for the remainder of the term. Although Dorothy Nditi assumes the governor's seat, there is contention already.
Before elections, we had agreed clearly that the governor will come from Embu community, the senator would come from the Mbere community, so as to foster the unity of that county.
Even as the law may be the way it is, I would like to see a governor of Embu coming from the Embu community.
Hata deputy wake ashikilie muda kidogo kama miezi moja ama miezi tatu ama miezi mbili ndio tuchaguane tena. Manake hatuwezi kusimamiwa na deputy na hakuchaguliwa na sisi raia.
The constitution, however, preempted such a situation. Article 182.6 states that unless they are removed from office under the constitution, the one who assumes the governor's office shall hold that office until the next governor is elected in the next election held. With Martin Wambora now edged out of the picture by the Senate, the law recognizes his deputy Dorothy Nditi as the new governor of Embu County. Nditi is now required to appoint a candidate to be approved by the county assembly for the deputy governor's seat. Nditi is said to have already held a closed-door meeting with the members of her county assembly on Sunday. Legal experts, however, say that Wambora's fate is not yet sealed. A 3-judge bench appointed by the Chief Justice to hear his petition on his impeachment is yet to make a ruling.
Legislative processes are not a function or in the domain of the judiciary. It is exclusive domain of the houses of parliament at the national level and the county assemblies at the devolved level.
With the courts set to hear a myriad of petitions on Wambora's impeachment, it appears the affairs of the Embu County government will be paralyzed longer than expected. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
And that, like we said at the beginning of our bulletin, will be the focus of our discussion on Checkpoint. We'll have Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, we'll have John Mbadi and Johnson Sakaja to talk about the process of devolution and if the senators have set a dangerous precedent. Let's move away from matters of politics and to matters of poverty, cultural and religious beliefs that are among reasons being advanced for the demand of unskilled birth attendants in rural Kenya. Now, this is despite the introduction of free maternity care in public hospitals. It is emerging now, however, that these traditional midwives could be a major contributor to the spread of chronic diseases to mothers and their newborns.
Tumebebwa na tinga mpaka pali panaitwa kwa ng'ombe. Kufika kwa ng'ombe, ule mama alizaa. Kuzaa mtoto mmoja. Kuzaa mtoto mmoja, kumbe ako na watoto ngapi? 3 kwa tumbo. Kufika kwa hospitali akazaa mtoto yapi? Nguvu kwisha na mama kwenda.
Hers was a household name in Mogotio, and this former traditional birth attendant knows too well the dangers of women delivering at home under the care of untrained traditional birth attendants. In her almost 2 decades experience as a TBA, she says many women and children died during delivery due to complications she could not handle.
Hapa kwetu hakuna hospitali ya kuzalisha. Tell me, tutamsaidiaje?
Nyamunya can now tell of realities and risks that expectant mothers go through in the hands of untrained traditional birth attendants like her. During her time, she could use one razor blade to conduct up to 5 deliveries, oblivious of dangers she exposed the client, the baby, and even herself to.
Hii wembe moja hii na usi tunafunga kwa miti, tunafungia kwa miti hivi, tunafunga inakaa round. Sasa wakati umeitwa wewe ni kuchukua bagi yako na mbio.
She is, however, well aware that someone's killed TBAs can pass infectious diseases to their clients during delivery.
Na wananite mimi mwenyewe saa hii ninakuwa mgonjwa. Niko na TB, niko na arsa, niko na sukari, hata sijui nitaambia nyinyi nini. Yote iko kwa wholesale.
Research from the district says almost half of expectant women in the area deliver in the hands of unskilled TBAs.
Walikuwa naamini wake zao wakienda kliniki wanaenda kupapaswa na wanaume ama kukandwa na wanaume ama kupimwa na wanaume.
Only 56.2% of expectant mothers deliver in hospitals. And therefore, we still have a larger number delivering at home.
For now, Nyamunya, who has undergone training on the risks of home delivery, appreciates the danger faced by TBAs in their practice.
Wanafaa kutufundisha wakati ya hatari. Utasaidia ule client wako aje. Ile virusi ya mama isifikie mtoto, ama ile virusi ya mzalishaji isifikie mama, ama isifikie mtoto.
NASCOP estimates that 10% of pregnant women in Kenya are living with HIV/AIDS, and at least 50,000 to 60,000 infants in Kenya are thought to be infected with HIV as a result of mother-to-child transmission each year. It is reported that HIV can be transmitted through breast milk and other ways, such as through TBAs during home delivery. Angel Katusia, KTN.
An increase in mortality rates can be attributed to the lack of access to medical care. And as the Jubilee government seeks to fulfill its promise of access to affordable health care, KTN's Sharon Momanyi highlights a new technology that promises to offer part of the solution to this challenge.
The fundamental problem of lack of access to medical care in many parts of rural Kenya is one we have largely highlighted. Lack of health infrastructure at these levels creating a deplorable situation. But as solutions to this are sought, a technology that links patients in remote areas to health practitioners using the internet begs audience. Call it telemedicine.
In order to make efficient healthcare provision and make it accessible, we need to be able to provide distance consulting, which is what telemedicine does.
Bildad Tindi, a patient from Embu Town, was in need of a second opinion regarding her diagnosis by a doctor from Nairobi. This was made possible by the Afya telemedicine service from Daktari Health, one of the few organizations offering this medical technology. Using simple internet connection, Bildad received medical advice through a video conference.
Bildad, up to the time you are through with the drugs.
As you do a consultation through telemedicine, you can involve a second doctor and a third doctor for a second opinion. Gives you that liberty then to better, treat the patient that you have before you.
The fast-growing emerging health service makes use of known devices like blood pressure monitors. Only they are fitted with USB ports to enable the transfer of the information to a caregiver or storage in a central database.
Having a central repository of information provides that kind of help to governments. And with telemedicine, you have one more way in which you collect information on a regular basis if you have it as a program nationally. to guide you on what is happening in terms of disease patterns and treatment and management of different situations.
For all its demonstrated possibilities, particularly in developed countries, is telemedicine a concept woven in Kenya's health service? The Cabinet Secretary for Health, James Macharia, says it is part of the ministry's plans.
It fits very well with our current concept. And basically it's anchored on about 4 things. First is about you need centers of excellence. And these referral hospitals like Kenyatta, Moi Referral are supposed to be, or they should be, centers of excellence. Number 2, there are certain hospitals which are specialist hospitals. Like you hear Eye Hospital, Kikuyu Eye Hospital, and so forth. And then thirdly, there's a cost. The cost of healthcare is very high. So you can afford to have like all the facilities in all the hospitals across the country.
The Jubilee government promised to first focus on preventive healthcare as it is less expensive. Their manifesto guarantees that every family has access to a fully equipped health center within 5 miles of their home, with a national network of local community health workers promoting preventive health services based at the centers. This new technology may be a stopgap measure, but just like any new concept, teething problems abound.
The biggest challenge is that for it to happen, you need a very robust digital platform. Because if you're talking about the 4,800 facilities in Kenya, how do they communicate with each other? Currently, they don't. You find if you go to some level 3 hospitals, for example, you enter the outpatient, you find a very big ledger.
On Saturday, the 15th of February, Danush Infotech Limited launched a digital medical school, with Kenya being the pilot in a one-of-a-kind project slated to be launched in other African countries later in the year. This new medical technology holds big promises to solving major healthcare service delivery problems, particularly that of access to all. The challenges notwithstanding, it remains to be seen when this will come close to you. Sharon Mumanyi, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, the man who has been the face of street protests in Kenya recently has hung up his boots. Boniface Mwangi says it is unlikely that you will see him being roughed up by police on the streets again. James Smart tells us why.
For a man known to the country as the face of agitation, protest, and confrontation, Boniface Mwangi cuts a figure of a man who attracts both hate and love. Hate to the supporters of the regime, who in his numerous activities frustrates, and affection to those who feel he represents their interests. So away from the violent street protest, running battles with the police, massive mess left in the city, Boniface Mwangi lets us into his house.
Mama, do you want to do a somersault? You have to stand up. This is my son, Nex Mpiwe, Jabali Mboya, Naila Sifa, and Jerry Mwangi. There's a time I thought I was willing to die for this country. I'm looking at it, this country is too selfish to die, to die for it. As in, people are very self-centered. It's all about them. So why should I die? Why shouldn't I just be a father to my kids?
Apologies for errors in that clip. Now, let's move on to another story. It was a blessing for parents with special needs when one such parent opened a school to meet the needs of her own child. Mercy Kandia reports from Uasin Gishu County, where this school becomes a beacon of hope for parents of children with disabilities.
The Sweet Angels Special School in Eldoret Town is what started as one mother's dream to see her daughter with cerebral palsy go to school like other children.
But she could see her sisters going out in the morning, putting on uniforms,
and coming back in the evening, you could look at her in her face and you can just add 1 + 1 and you get 2. That what is wrong with me? Why am I left behind? What?
Her daughter, Audrey, is 20. She was the only student when the school started in 2009. Currently, the 35 students here call the school home. They are all boarders, with the lessons and classes tailored for these special needs children.
So I have cerebral palsy children around, and I have autistic children around. I also have hydrocephalus, and I have Down syndrome.
Their attachment to their teachers is more than ordinary. It is not only education that these special ones have found here, but friendship too. This even without speech. The bonds of kinship are also created. The 3 specially trained teachers and 2 therapists patiently train them, each with their own speed of learning.
It doesn't matter whether it can take them teaching one thing even in a year, because our children are not like the others.
Yellow is Most special schools in the county are privately owned, with the public special schools lacking enough personnel.
Any special schools that I found around, I was told that they only admit a child who can only feed herself, who can take herself to the toilet, and none of those Audrey could do.
Through her experience, Lynette advises parents whose children suffer from such conditions to accept them and help to integrate them into the society.
Wale wazazi wenzangu ambao wako na watoto wa aina hii, hawa watoto ni wabaraka katika familia zetu na hatustahili kuwaficha.
Lack of sensitization to open up access to special education could also see several children and adults remain deprived of educational opportunities if stakeholders remain silent.
Which color is this? Red. Good, well done.
The opening of Sweet Angels Special School is just one step amid the myriad of challenges they face, including lack of enough facilities. Every school day is every day of the delivery of the right to learn for the special needs students. The students in this class graduated from top class to class 1. Hopefully next year they will graduate to class 2. But it's not all about graduating to the next class. It's about getting an opportunity to learn like other children. Marcy Kandie, KTN, at Sweet Angels Special School in the county of Uasin Gishu.
Good job to that parent there who's making life easier for a lot of other people in the same situation. Right, welcome back to KTN Weekend Prime. Let's take a look at other news across the country. Farmers in Meru are cutting down their mango trees, saying the crop is no longer profitable. This as robbers break into a church in Mombasa. Details of these and more stories up next.
More than 100 families at Ngei 2 area in Nairobi's Huruma estate are now homeless following an overnight fire that razed their houses. Residents say the fire was prompted by an electrical fault caused by the heavy downpour. A 23-year-old man was killed in the inferno. In Mombasa, a group of armed thugs on Saturday night raided St. James Catholic Church in Mtopanga, seriously injuring one night guard. According to eyewitnesses, the thugs launched their attack at about 1 a.m. They are said to have attacked the guard with pangas and other crude weapons, then stolen car mirrors from cars parked in the church compound. Elsewhere, residents of Kilifi County now want the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the National Land Commission to institute investigations against a county member of parliament over irregular land allocations in the county. They claim the MP has failed to address land grabbing at the coastal county, accusing him of being an obstacle to proper land reforms in the area. And still in the coastal region, dozens of women from Tanzania are crossing into Kenya to seek the free maternal services in public hospitals in Taita Taveta County. The management of the Taveta District Hospital says free services are offered to all women who report to the hospital. However, the management also says resources at the hospital are now stretched by the increasing numbers. Here in Nairobi, A group of human rights activists will on Tuesday lead a procession to commemorate the death of the late freedom fighter Dedan Kimathi, who was killed on the 18th of February 1957. The procession is organized by the Solidarity Committee of the Human Rights Fraternity in Kenya and will start at the Freedom Corner. And Tumeri County now, where a section of mango farmers now opt to grow alternative crops over what they term as unprofitability of mango farming. The farmers say they lack a ready market for their produce, which has lowered the prices to about 5 shillings for a kilogram of mangoes. Some farmers in Tigania East and Imenti North constituencies have begun cutting down their mango trees and say they want to venture into miraa farming instead. Sharon Mumanyi, KTN.
Rongai Member of Parliament Raymond Moy has commended retired President Daniel Arap Moy's commitment to the growth of the education sector in the country. The legislator cited the many educational institutions that Moy founded. Retired President Moy encouraged parents to take their children to school to secure their future and contribute to the development of the country. He, however, noted that access to quality education across Kenya could improve even further if the existing challenges are addressed.
And you might have in a primary school like this, you might have maybe 5 teachers sponsored by TSC, and the rest are, the burden is carried by parents. And as we know, we're going through very extreme and difficult economic times. Parents cannot sustain that. Parents cannot. So the government should give us teachers sponsored by TSC, so the performance in these other schools can be compared to the performance here at Moi Primary School. I would seriously urge the government. This is our undoing in Nakuru County. We need government intervention in schools.
Right, let's take you to that story earlier about Boniface Mwangi, who's the man who has been the face of street protests in Kenya, who has now hung up his boots. Boniface Mwangi says it is unlikely that you will see him being roughed up by police on the streets again. James Smart now tells you why.
For a man known to the country as the face of agitation, protest, and confrontation, Boniface Mwangi cuts a figure of a man who attracts both hate and love. Hate to the supporters of the regime, who in his numerous activities frustrates, and affection to those who feel he represents their interests. So away from the violent street protest, running battles with the police, massive mess left in the city, Boniface Mwangi lets us into his house.
Mama, do you want to do a somersault?
Here, the dramatic man on the street wears a different hat. He is a husband and the father of 3 children.
This is my son, Nexin Piwe, Jabali Mboya, Naila Sifa, and Jerry Mwangi.
From the tough-talking, street-smart, pain in the hands of authority young man, in front of his family, Boniface tells me he's retiring from protesting or activism. He says he fears for his life.
There's a time I thought I was willing to die for this country. I'm looking at it, this country is too selfish to die for it. As in, people are very self-centered. It's all about them. So why should I die? Why shouldn't I just be a father to my kids?
For more than 5 years, Boniface Mwangi has organized and led elaborate street protests, ranging from initiating a shouting match in national events that often ended rather badly for him, all the way to carrying coffins to Parliament and brazenly starting a bonfire in the middle of a city street, sliding even further into dumping style right in front of Parliament. To what end? What has he achieved, I asked.
For this country, I want to change my tactics in a way that I'm going to live to see the fruits of what we're fighting for, and that my kids can grow up with a father. So I said I'm not going to get to the streets. And you know now Kememi is saying that I'm being paid to topple the government. It's a very serious allegation, because that's treasonable. And so I'm staying away from this. Stop it!
Our interview is often interrupted by his children. They must be happy to have their father around, but it is Njeri, Boniface's wife, that puts into context what this young family has had to give up to accommodate his activities.
They could silence him, and I don't know what silence in this case means. in this. For him, I don't know what that silence would be. And whatever it could be, it can't be good. If he can't speak out because he's a person who speaks out, then what then does he become? You know, it's like crippling somebody, stuffing something in his mouth so that he can't talk. What kind of life would that be?
His family, Boniface says, has been supportive of his activities. He takes his children along to the protests. They have attended all of them, he says, except the last one on Thursday.
I'm a photographer. That's my daytime job. But I tend to get arrested a lot.
Sir, you tell these guys to search us because we're going in. We are not going in.
So what's the future of street agitation, I ask? Is he concerned?
From the past, they normally malign you before they kill you. So it's better for me to live when I'm still alive.
Meanwhile, he now plans to focus on his God-given talent, photography, which is actually where it all started. Boniface was a photographer with a Standard Media Group before his experience in covering the post-election violence thrust him into the limelight and ultimately into human rights activism. For now, this young family, as they open their doors to us, say they will be closing them and recollect their lives for what it remains. A change of strategy or a massive change of heart in the continuing and ever-changing world of agitation? Time is the best judge. James Smart, KTN.
How will he be remembered? Well, that will be time that will tell, the history books will tell just what his contribution has been. Right, we want to take another short break. Checkpoint is coming up, and like we said today, we're talking about that historic vote that took place in the Senate on Friday evening. Are the senators on a vendetta mission, or are they playing their oversight role? We will have Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. We will also have Johnson Sakaja, who's the chair of the TNA, and John Buddy. As you can see, they're here and ready to go with the discussion. You want to participate? No problem. Send us your tweets. Use the hashtag Checkpoint. You can also get in touch with us on SMS. The number is 22155. What do you think about this? Do you want the senators to come to your county next? All of that after the break. Stay with us. Right, welcome back. You're watching Checkpoint right here on KTN Weekend Prime. 9 more senators have been summoned by the Senate Committee on Finance, and today we're going to be discussing that historic vote, what it means for you. Are you happy with the work that the Senate has done, or do you think they're being unfair, and could this be the beginning of the end for devolution? Hashtag Checkpoint on Twitter, and you saw my guest just before we went to the break. Thank you all for coming. Let's start with you, Senator. Some pretty harsh words that you used you know, against governor, or should we now say former governor.
Yes.
You called him an Alice in Wonderland when it comes to management of what was happening in the county.
You know, in every issue he was asked. By the way, I think Wambora, together with his council, really made their case worse because when they came in, they just admitted that he didn't know anything in the county. For every question we asked, he said those are small things. A governor is not supposed to know details. A governor is a big person, you know, who is dealing with vision and policy. And I wondered what the County Government Act, Section 33F, where it says that the governor is responsible for all the resources in the county and account for those resources. Article 179 of the Constitution talks about is the chief executive officer of the county. So it became really irritating for us. Every time a question was asked, he was just say, it's not me, ask the other people. But even what made it worse is that when you went for the details, he has never held a county executive committee meeting, what they call in the county's cabinet meeting, for more than 1 month. If he had a problem with county assembly, what was his problem with his county executive? Because you have a scandal about maize in your county. You have an issue to do with procurement, restricted tender somewhere in Embu Stadium, and you've never even cared to discuss in the county executive. I think really it puts the question really that led to Wambora's going home was leadership. And the fact that we have legislated on leadership and put it in the constitution, that's why it was easy to find him guilty in terms of the charge of breaking the constitution.
All right, Sakaja, you've just been shaking your head, and you agree?
I must say first of all that former Governor Wambora is a member of TNA. So was the Speaker of Embu County, the MCAs, and a majority of the members of Parliament. And when this process started, I actually got involved, and I, as chair of the party, was able to call them I spoke to each one of them. I spoke to the MCAs. I spoke to the senator who's in Jubilee, Senator Kivuti, as well as the speaker and the governor. And what we realized and decided as a party is that maybe in the interest of devolution, in the interest of the people of Embu County, that we let the process go on, because it's a process that is provided for in the law. We do not want to interfere. And for me, that leads to my next point, that devolution, which Kenyans really voted for, it was a highlight of our constitution, and it's something that we in Jubilee really believe in and want to protect, is supported by a system of institutions, a set of institutions that provide checks and balances on each other. So I think, one, the Senate was well within its mandate to go through that process. I also believe the County Assembly was well within its mandate, and the governor also was well within his mandate and his role to actually come and defend himself. Now, if you ask about the details of the conviction, so to speak, for lack of a better word, or the impeachment,
yeah, I think
that might be another discussion altogether. I think it's a process that is well provided for within our laws, and however, I think it needs to be strengthened.
How's that?
In many respects. One, the capacity to investigate some of the issues, really.
Do you think the Senate had the capacity to do that? To conduct investigations? It seemed almost like a court process. We had, examination, cross-examination. It really did seem like a trial.
Definitely more could be done. And even as we go on with this devolution, I think it's a learning process for all institutions. Some people might say, no, you should have brought in the EACC, you should have brought in, but he was not charged in court. An impeachment is, first of all, a vote of no confidence in the person. And Senator Kipchumba has pointed out correctly that the first issue is confidence in leadership. If all your MCAs say we don't believe in your leadership, and they have mandate from the people as well, and it comes to the Senate and they also say the same thing, then it's a great indictment to you as a government.
Being the chair of TNA, we'll get to you, Mbadi, in just a moment. Being the chair of TNA with everything that's happened, are you disappointed in this governor?
I think, one, what we have shown as TNA is that even if the whole country had Jubilee senators and governors and MCAs, we have internal processes through which we can check and balance.
Are you disappointed with him? That's a very good answer. Are you disappointed in him?
It's true.
But
really.
True as it is, are you disappointed with him?
I'm disappointed. Yeah. Honestly, I'm disappointed because the first county where somebody has been impeached is a county from Jubilee. But I am greatly impressed as well by the members of parliament, by the maturity shown, even by the governor, and by the all the leaders. I'm absolutely, completely impressed by the maturity. This is devolution. Devolution is not about protecting governors. It's about protecting the people. Because devolution was not about governors. It's about the people of this country.
All right. Mbadi, what are your thoughts?
My starting point would be that the most important thing for this country at the moment is devolution, as my colleagues have put it. And any attempt that would go a long way in strengthening or anchoring devolution and making it something that would be workable for this country is welcome. And so the senators, to the extent of insofar as exercising their oversight mandate and trying to deter some of bad behaviors, so to speak, by governors, and maybe to put it in a different way, the kind of governance issues that we have with the governors, I think is welcome. But I am a bit disturbed. Since Friday evening, there's one question that I've kept on asking myself, that listening to senators making their presentation, I listened to the first presentation and I was impressed, and I wanted, if only the contribution by senators ended at the point James Orengo made his presentation, I would have been very happy.
What happened after that?
But I just wanted to mention the Boni Alwales didn't start well, but ended very well. Murkomen was very excellent. And James Orengo was also very good. But after that, what we saw was really disappointing. The first question I asked myself, if the Constitution is very clear that the reasons for removal of governor, one of them, and which the Senate based their impeachment on, was gross violation of the constitutional provisions and all other laws. Now the question you would want to ask, why did Kenyans see it fit to add the word gross. It is not just violation of the Constitution. And therefore, one would have expected that the governors do, the senators dwelt and concentrated a lot on demonstrating to Kenyans how gross was the violation of the Constitution by Governor Wambora. But what I saw from some of the senators, like my friend Mudama, was really disappointing to say the least. And Munyes, they came out very badly, among others. So I think that is where I have a problem.
It is some statements like that that made people say, okay, he was impeached based on arrogance, and that this wasn't really, based on the merits of the law, but that you felt you didn't like what he had to say, which is not necessarily a basis for finding him guilty of violation of those three.
You know, the advantage I had with Kalwale, Orengo, Mamatangi, among the few speakers who spoke, was that we were members of the committee. So we went through the whole process. The others only had 1 hour to read the report, and they read, actually. And also in the manner in which debates drift, usually in Parliament, both in the Senate and National Assembly, people wanted to use the opportunity now to pick other issues, to address other issues. But I agree with Mbadi that we, all of us. And remember, there was even a time that Senator Songo was brought back, and was told, a member just on a point of order said that we need to keep the narrow path by the majority leader, actually, Kithure Kindiki. But all said and done, you cannot compare what the Senate did. And don't say this as a famous battle. You cannot compare what Senate did. There is nothing, there is no debate in the National Assembly that comes close to the soberness that the Senate had in the most difficult moment, in the history of the country.
I knew that was
and I want to be very honest that there are some corrections we have to do in Senate, but I think my brother in the National Assembly
I'd have to come in.
Is just excited that for once they dealt with the real business.
There you go. We'll come to that in a moment. Yes, but once you've dealt with some real business, somebody.
I wish he didn't get to that.
On a light note.
Kipchumba needs also to appreciate that there are 349 members.
Yeah, which I agree.
Compared to, I think, is it 67?
Okay, all right, okay.
But there's one thing that I think I should have also mentioned. You see, in this country, we have also to be fair. Much as we've done this to the governor of Embu County, we need to ask ourselves, we have lowered the threshold in our system, so to speak. If you are doing what you have done to Wambora today, and then still we allowed the president and the deputy to run when they are facing crimes against humanity,
that's your work.
Then we are applying double standards in this country. I think that is something that we need to come out as Kenyans and ask ourselves if we are doing some of these things, and they are excellent. It is good to do them.
Would you then start a process like that in the National Assembly, which, as you say, has 349 members as compared to, although we know the impeachment obviously is handled by the Senate. Is that something you would like them to take up?
It is true that one would challenge that someone needs to initiate the process. But you see, I got disappointed because the court system, the judiciary, had the capacity, had the responsibility, had the duty to stop the two from running. But you see now that the judiciary allowed them to run. Even if you take that impeachment to Parliament now, it's like you're already, it's self-defeating.
All right, let me be very honest. The principle of innocent until proven guilty is a constitutional principle. If Governor Wambora today was going through a court process on the same issues, we were not going to impeach him because he needs to exhaust that process, or the court process. There were options, and there are still options even up to now. Some of the governors are saying they will go to court tomorrow and say that they are going to block investigation and so forth. A citizen has also the right to go to court using the Auditor General report or any other report to sue them. They will be perhaps arrested, they will go to court, they will not be impeached. They will wait until, if it takes a year or two, they go through their process. If they are found guilty, they go home. So the two routes, I want to tell Buddy, you should not confuse. And
I thought you impeached Wambora when he was in court.
I was about to get to that, yes.
He started so well. Buddy started so well by referring to Article 181, which talks about either gross violation of the Constitution or violating of local criminal law or international criminal law, or you're found of abuse of office, or you have lost your mind. Those are the only grounds, and those grounds must be proved. That is why we found him violating the Constitution and other legislation.
Okay.
So in other words, I'm saying that any person who thinks that the president or the deputy has violated the Constitution will just start from National Assembly,
Okay.
and the Senate
and
is
then the
waiting for
process
that
will come
trial.
to the
Yeah,
Senate.
yeah.
But let's talk about, the separation of these powers between the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. And oftentimes, including in this case, we see this
Yes.
clash. Senate or the National Assembly begins to discuss an issue. The court comes in and says, no, you cannot do that. We saw what happened with the JSC and the National Assembly. Those members of the JSC. So what would you say about that process when, the court said, do not discuss this, and you went ahead and discussed it in the Senate?
We in the Senate will be the last people to disobey court order, because disobeying court order, and the other day we just came from court, we were the first people to run to court. We cannot debate them for that.
There was that
so
as
it's
well.
important we disclose to the public, and I think we never wanted to go that direction, that there was no court order barring Senate from discussing Governor Wambora's case. There was none. If you want to go to, as lawyers, you have to look at the orders. The orders were against the Speaker introducing the matter to Senate. But that order was already overtaken by events because it came late when the matter had already been introduced. So it was impossible to implement. And when it came now to the House, in fact, the litigants prayed for an injunction to stop Senate from debating that matter, and the court did not grant, which means that the judge was alive to the fact that he didn't want to block the court.
All right, so it had already happened,
when he goes back to court, those issues will be canvassed. But if there was an order to stop us, there was nothing to make it urgent for us to want to.
But then the decision was different when we had the debate of, the conduct of those JSC's commissioners.
I don't know about National Assembly.
Actually, even in that particular debate, and I remember I submitted on the floor of the House. The problem in separation of powers is not a new issue. It's been there for many years, and lawyers like Kipchumba will tell you. I read once in a publication dated 1915, someone stating that, I think Huxley, that separation of powers is the product of a misconception, because you have three institutions, depending on the jurisdiction you're in. Like Kenya, we have three institutions.
Yes.
The judiciary, the legislature, and the executive.
Right.
And the institutional peers. There is none that is necessarily above the other. And each of them operate based on the constitution. The judiciary cannot stop a process that is going on within within parliament.
Okay.
In fact, there's something called the parliamentary sovereignty all around the world. But they can actually make a ruling on the outcome. They cannot stop the process in the same way.
They would have to allow the process
Yes,
to reach its completion and then rule on the outcome.
In the same way, we in Parliament cannot tell a judge to rule in a certain way.
Okay, so you wait for the ruling and then you discuss the outcome. Okay.
But even in as much as legislation is the province of the Parliament, the courts also legislate through precedents. You get? And even though you have the separation, the budget of the judiciary and executive comes
is discussed in Parliament. Okay. We understand that. Yes, ma'am.
On that, I just wanted to say the following. One, that I wish I had an opportunity to contribute to that motion of JSC. Actually, I would have had a different view from. I attempted to, and the Speaker overruled me. But the point I want to raise at the moment, the point I wanted to raise is with regards to the court coming in to legislative process. Even if there was an order to stop the Senate, I think it would, in my view, it would have been wrong.
Okay.
Because you see, the Senate, the judiciary should not interfere with the work of Parliament.
Okay.
The same way you would not expect Parliament to stop judiciary from transacting.
Okay, all right. I'd like to move the discussion forward a little bit because 9 more governors have been summoned by the Senate. And let's talk about some of them, including Jack Ranguma, who there was uproar in the beginning, if you recall, about some of the things that he's either said to have done or not done, where he was said to be living or not living. I don't want to be, very categorical, but would you be happy? Are there some ODM governors that you are unhappy with and that you would happily have the Senate summon and discuss their conduct?
Let me tell you, to some extent, we have issued with almost 47 governors in some way. But let me put it this way. If the summons by the Senate is based on reports from the Auditor General or the reports from Controller of Budget, that is perfectly the responsibility of the Senate and the governors who are summoned to appear or invited, because I don't call it a summon.
It's now someone. It was invitation before, now it's someone.
Now it is a summon.
Yes, the first one was an invitation.
If they failed to accept the invitation, I think that was wrong in my view. They should come and explain those questions, because you have to be accountable.
Right.
You cannot just be a governor there and sit in Homa Bay County and say that you have all the powers. No one should question how you spend.
All right. Okay. And when we talk about that, though, there was some criticism at the time that party leader Raila Odinga did not do enough to, rein in Jack Ranguma. But we can say here that we don't know about that.
How?
No. Let's talk about because here's the issue. And I'm not saying that he probably did not do it. He probably could have done it, but it's just there was.
Who has made that allegation? It's the first time I'm hearing about it, because it would really be unfortunate. You would have asked maybe Mbadi, for example. At least I have some legal basis. I have an office. I'm a member of parliament. One expecting Jack Ranguma.
I like that.
It can only be advice, an informal advice, or in a parliamentary group, or what we call it, the code. We have a council of governors, which is really not recognized, because there is no. In the provision
there's no legal framework for that.
There is no framework for Council of Governors for court. So it can only be advice, and it can only be something that is
Do
treated
you know if this
politically.
advice took place?
No, I have no idea. I mean, when he meets the governors, I don't attend the meetings.
Even on the earlier point, and of course I'm seeing a situation where maybe some of the Jubilee strongholds will teach the court strongholds how to really deal with devolution, because they have been claiming to be the proponents of this devolution and it as an enemy. But the point is this, that I think devolution comes out stronger after what happened. I may not be happy or happy with it. That does not matter as a party. But it comes out stronger. But what we hope really is that the Senate then, even as it proceeds with other governors, does not then use this as an opportunity even to witch hunt. I think everything must be based on fact. Everything must be very objective. And I believe that we have very honorable senators who can think beyond whether they like the size of the nose of this senator, or this governor or the other one, but can actually look at issues. Then devolution is stronger. And you must always remember the person to be protected, because I've had some governors saying that there's an onslaught to devolution. Devolution is not about governors. Neither is it about senators or MPs. It's about the people of Kenya getting services. The people of Kenya want to actually get basic services, first of all, when you begin.
And here's another...
Say that about the 9 governors being summoned.
Yes, please.
Because now the information I have, it's across the parties. There is a governor I don't want to mention now, who has been found, and he has been misleading us with a lot of PR areas, but he's been found to be having 6 confidential accounts where he withdraws money himself directly. It's serious. 6. I mean, I read the Auditor's General report. The governor of Embu, the governor of Embu will look like a martyr. I mean, his problems will just be like child's play. I mean, there is a governor who did an overdraft of 36 million, just picked money from the bank and said he was doing roads without getting approval of the county assembly.
That will be guaranteed as well. That is a loan.
Uh-huh.
He gets from there. There is another governor, the same governor of that 6 million is the same governor who went to collected money locally without banking, running them through the bank so that he can get approval and use the money.
Once.
I mean, the reason why, and I want to challenge my friend Isaac Ruto, the reason why he's making noise is because when it comes before the Senate committee, the report that will appear before himself, it's not now about Council of Governors, it's damning. I mean, you just look at how people want to run away from accountability. And this, let me be very firm on this. I ran around this country criticizing National Assembly for not agreeing with us in terms of division of revenue bill. We worked together with the governors. The same process, they came to devolution committee more than twice. When now the same committee, a similar committee of the Senate is calling them for accountability, they're calling us the junior people, they're saying that we are not supposed. I mean, really,
you're hearing statements about the fact that...
No,
let me just say what is out there. They're saying it's about control of finances, and the senators no longer have that.
It's about control of finances. It's not control in the sense that I want to control, but I don't need money. But accountability. And accountability is not a request. Devolution, let me tell you, even if today you hate a devolution and want to bring it down, you can't. You have to bring down the constitution. Accountability is a requirement that we must ensure that we push. Corruption, any governor, and I don't know why people think, and I just want to cut there, I don't know why someone thinks that when they go to court, the courts of Kenya in the new constitutional dispensation would condone corruption.
But But Yvonne, you see, I agree with the comment to a great extent. Because first, if this is based on auditor's report, then you cannot accuse senators. You cannot fault it. But one thing that today I'm happy that Murkomen has mentioned, when we insisted that 210 billion was even more than what governors need in the first year, we were not understood.
But
you put these people in problems because first you want them to spend the money that you have allocated to them. There are no structures. The stuff they have been transferred to them through the transitional authority. They don't have much control over them. And then you expect them to spend this money within a very short time. What would they do? Violate the provisions of the procurement. And that is what we are seeing. In fact, a lot of these governors are going to go in partly because they were given too much to execute within a very
too much money too soon?
The biggest problem really with devolution is too many people, too full of themselves, thinking it's about them. We've devolved egos and arrogance. We have not devolved services. We've not devolved delivery. Kenyans wanted
what have we done? Devolved egos?
That's what we have. Because, I mean, if there's an issue of accountability for the people, and you're saying you're too junior to call me, when is the president summoned to parliament? I mean, what happens to servant leadership?
If the county assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet or even of Mombasa summon me, they have the power of High Court to summon any Kenyan. I will not say that they are smaller people. I'll go there because if I don't go, the next thing they will get warrants against me. We need to learn servant leadership. We need to understand that it was not about power. It was about the power you were given was a responsibility to deliver service.
All right. Okay. We're just about to wind up our discussion, but I cannot let you go before I ask you. We've aired this story. You saw James Smart speaking to Boniface Mwangi. It's a complete different tangent. Are you happy now that he's retired? More comment?
I don't know what he was doing. So, if I knew, I only saw his pictures. He's my friend on Twitter. I don't know exactly what was his contribution. I'm told that he used to protest. I've seen a few pictures about him. I don't know if there's retirement in protesting. I really don't know. I don't know what to say.
Sakaja, he was outside the precincts of Parliament not too long ago.
I don't know, but the point I want to make is that Kenya must grow to the position where people will be allowed to continue making the point they want to make, but in a very civilized way. So there's a responsibility both on us, part of leaders, to protect our citizens who want to make a point, even if they want to criticize me, but also there's an expectation for every citizen who want to protest to conduct themselves in a very civilized manner. That's the point I can only say.
Boniface is my friend as well. Okay. I saw him tweeting.
You know, it's interesting, yes, how he's everybody's friend.
On
Twitter.
Me personally.
Okay.
I saw him tweeting that he can die for Kenya, and somebody asking whether he's consulted his wife and his children, or whether they can allow him to die. I think we need to find space through which we can have active, protesting, and this activism. I think it has become an industry as well at this point in our country. But I think we need to find a way to single out those who are protesting genuinely and who want constructive solutions from their protests.
Was he that person for you?
No.
Did he represent that?
No. And I told him many times. Told him, man, you make allies, talk to people. Instead of going to pour blood outside Parliament, look for a number of young MPs and sit down with them to ask them on this issue. This is what I think. What can you do?
I am pretty sure we'll get unanimity on this one with the panel here today.
I wouldn't be united with them on this. First of all, let me put it this way. In my view, I think what has happened is very sad. That this gentleman can decide to resign from his agitation, however uncouth it was. It was important because the right of assembly, the right to protest, is guaranteed in our constitution. This just shows the level of intolerance of Jubilee administration. I would tell you what we see, what I heard from Kimemi and his team is the same things we had in 1980s when we had of Mwakenya, so many clandestine things that were not real. We were told of people who are involved in subversive activities, and that is what this Boniface was being accused of, to the extent of even blaming you said, and there is no evidence. I think this country, we have to be alert, and we have to wake up and realize that the people who are now in government, the top leadership,
so for you,
is an incarnation of
But maybe he's resigning from protesting because there's nothing more to protest about.
It's very serious. I think we need, even if he's resigning, we need to get more civil.
And if he's resigning, he's in a job.
Okay, all right, fine. All right. On that note, we have to leave it. Thank you. The conversation does indeed continue right here on Checkpoint. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming and for your views on that. Thanks for watching as well. I want to take a short break. We'll be right back. It's time for sports now. Kenya won their first women's FIVB championships against Uganda after a 3-0 thrashing at the Kasarani Indoor Arena. Kenya won in sets of 25-16, 25-10 and 25-14. Here's Victor Gale with the rest of that story.
Before coming to Kenya for the FIVB Women's World Championship qualifiers, Uganda had camped in the Netherlands for 2 weeks in preparation. On Sunday, in the first match against Kenya, what many termed as the Mijingo Derby, it seems their training abroad did not bear fruit as they ended up as spectators in the match. Our national heroines easily settled for a 25-16 win in the first set, followed by a 25-10, 25-14 win in the final sets.
The match was very, very competitive. It was a bit fast for my team. And unfortunately, my team normally starts a bit slowly. And the Kenyans were spot on, and everything 50-50 went for the Kenyan team.
We expected a lot from them because they had just come from Netherlands. But we want to congratulate them. They are really improving every day. And we are happy because if they improve, then our region will improve even more.
According to Coach Lungaho, he was using the first match to test his players, bearing in mind he's yet to meet wealthy opponents such as Tunisia.
We did not play very well, though we did not play badly because we expected it to be a hammering session, which it happened not to be. But I'm happy because the win is the most important thing.
Earlier on, Senegal beat Seychelles by 3 sets of 25-23, 25-18 and 25-22. The Migingo Derby went in favor of Kenya after a 3-0 defeat over neighbors Uganda. And on Monday, Kenya will be on court as they take on Mozambique in yet another FIVB Women's Volleyball Championships. Victor Ugale, KTN, at the Kasarani Indoor Arena, Nairobi.
Let's stay with football matters. AFC Leopards and Gor Mahia have moved into the next round of the Confederations Cup and CAF Champions League, respectively, after securing away wins. Leopards beat Defence Forces 2-1, while Gor Mahia won 3-1 against US Bitam after a 1-all goal aggregate. With a 2-0 win at home, AFC Leopards seem to have done their homework well against the military side. The hosts went ahead through Mulualem Tilahun. Alan Wanga, who missed the first leg of the Nyayo National Stadium through an injury, grabbed a brace in the match as James Nando's Chargers comfortably won 4-1 on aggregate. In Gabon, Gor Mahia lost 1-0 through a goal scored in the first half, for the match was deadlocked at 1-1 after the final whistle and was decided by post-match penalties. Kogalo won 3-1 in post-match penalties to sail through to the second round of the prestigious CAF Champions League. Football Kenya Federation has resolved to expel Sami Shalay, Dan Shikanda and Hussein Terry. This was reached on Sunday afternoon during a consultative meeting held between the National Executive Committee, branch chairman and secretaries. According to FKF, the trio moved to court, a move the Federation feels failed to protect the integrity of soccer as required by the Constitution. FKF further accused Kenyan Premier League of bulldozing soccer matters after they refused to okay the Kinoru Stadium as a home ground for Tusker FC, saying that FKF's technical committee will deal with it. At the same function, the soccer heads asked for the reinstatement of ex-FIFA referee Elias Kuloba in the 2014 Kenyan Premier League.
Let us be talking positively of each other. Let us find other ways of addressing each other's weakness.
We have been doing what we call a consultative meeting. However, we have come up with very many resolutions, which as a team, when we call for an SGM or an AGM, we will go there with a common stand.
The common stand to be taken during the annual general meeting is that Sami Sholei and Dan Shikanda be expelled for going to court. Hussein Terry be expelled for failure to protect the integrity of the federation as required by the Constitution.
Right, let's wind up our bulletin this night with some good news. Inmates at Kisumu Women's Prison were today treated to a belated Valentine's Day celebration, during which they also marked their annual Miss Kodiaga Beauty Pageant. KTN's Fredo Muller has this story.
While the rest of the world may have gotten over the Valentine hangover 2 days ago, female prisoners in Kisumu had a reason to smile. They were getting roses and a bunch of gifts that only a lover could give. Only this time, the lover is the prison authorities.
It's a form of rehabilitation, and it's a form of showing that even them who are inside, we love them. Apart from the things they did outside there, we still love them. And we still want them to be good citizens after finishing their terms. That is why we are keen on celebrating the Valentine.
In addition, they got a chance to celebrate their beauty and choose who amongst them is the fairest. Black and white stripes notwithstanding, a rose by any other name smells just as sweet.
Ziko smart na tunafurahia wafungwa wote. At least kama tunakumbushwa hiyo maneno ya furaha hiyo, kuwa tunajaribu kukumbuka kumbe tunapendwa kama watu wanakuja kututembelea na kutuletea rose flowers ambao labda hata mwingine si kuwahi pewa huko nje, lakini hapa anaweza pewa. Kwa hivyo tunakuwa na furaha kubwa sana.
The warders say the annual celebration has instilled emotional balance among the inmates and erodes the sense of abandonment that many prisoners feel when they land at the correctional facility. From Kisumu City, I am Fredo Mudo.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? I actually think that's a pretty good way to judge who's most beautiful. They're all in the exact same clothing, and so you can gauge for yourself just who's the best looking of them all. Right, that's where we leave it at this evening. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your feedback. I don't have time to read it all, but it's been absolutely amazing to have you tonight and for your feedback on Checkpoint as well. Have a very good night. We'll see you again soon. My name is Yvonne Okwara. Good night.